What is your value or worth as a voiceover talent? Yeah, we are going to stir up a hornet's nest today. Boy, this is a hotly debated topic within voiceover circles. And what got me thinking about this was recently in my Facebook stream feed, I noticed that somebody had made a comment about an athlete. I don't remember who it was, what team he played for, or even how much money it was. I think it may have been basketball, but I don't follow basketball, so that's why it wouldn't stick. But the comments did stick, and that was this: nobody is worth that much money. Now, those of you who have debated sports with your buddies over the years, that phrase has been said probably more times than you could possibly count. Nobody deserves that much money, because to we mere mortals, even if you're a millionaire and you make good money, when you look at some of these top paid athletes, you think, wow, that is another universe altogether. But my question for you is this: isn't he? Are you sure that he's not worth that much money? And that ties into our conversation for today. What is your value? What are you worth as a voiceover talent? Going back to our illustration, the story of the athlete who's, worth, more than anybody should be paid, according to at least this one person who posted in my Facebook feed. Remember this: you are worth what somebody is willing to pay you. And the reason that particular organization was willing to pay that exorbitant amount of money is because they believe it was an investment. Now, investments are not 100% guaranteed. Typically, they're just not. But they believed it was in their best interest to pay him that much money because they believed he would return that and more to them. So if he can double or triple the money that they put in to him, is he not worth that much money? I would argue absolutely he is. You are worth the value that you bring to a client. Now, a client will pay you based on what they perceive your value to be to them. So there could be a bit of a gap between real value, perceived value. We'll save that discussion for another time. But the bottom line is this, and this is this is where I stand on this particular issue. You are worth what somebody is willing to pay you, because presumably they're measuring it against what their return or what they believe their return will be on that project. Too often, people in voiceover, they want to look to the almighty rate guide. Well, what does your rate card look like? What are they charging? Is there a standard rate card that people should use? And I understand that it feels comfortable to feel like you have that kind of control, that kind of absolute certainty on something, but in reality, that does not exist. It does not exist in voiceover, really in business in general. And if you look at pricing strategies in business, it's a real science that goes on there. And just because somebody says that's not the client, it's not a client, just because they say you're worth something, doesn't mean you're worth something. Now, don't misunderstand me. In the grand scheme of things, you are infinitely valuable. We're not debating that. But as a voiceover talent, yeah, your value can be put down as a number of dollars and a number of cents. Absolutely. And it can change from client to client because they're looking at, it's a business decision for them. What will they get back in return for what you do for them? And depending on the business, depending on the volume of business they do, depending on their customer reach, all of these factors will determine what it brings back to you. The fact that you own a $1,000 or a $5,000 microphone and you've invested thousands in this and that, and you've had this training and blah, and you have these credits, yeah, it can boost your perceived value to the client. Absolutely. And by the way, you have the right, just because they're not willing to pay you what it's worth to them doesn't mean it's not worth more to you. So you determine your value as well. And then at some point, it's a yes or no, or you have to come to a meeting of the minds and negotiate that rate. But from the client side, don't get upset because, I'm worth X number of dollars and they're not willing to pay me. Well, then you're not worth it to them. Doesn't mean your rate won't be worth it to somebody else. It doesn't mean it's not worth it to you. You have every right and you have the responsibility to determine what you will and won't accept on jobs based on the value that it brings to you, based on a number of factors. So this is a two-way street. But when the two parties, The hiring party, the voice seeker, determines what value, they need from a voiceover talent, and the voiceover talent understands what they need from it. And if those two interests intersect, then you've got a deal. You've got something that can happen. But as a voiceover talent, if you think that the market is going to bend to something just because you want it to be so, forget about it. Forget about it. Now, yeah, sure, there are instances where people have explained what they do, and it has increased the perceived value to the client, and they've decided to pay them more. Not saying that that's not a possibility, not saying that you shouldn't do that. Absolutely, you should build value in any way possible way that you can for the client. But here's the ultimate, here's the stick, here's the problem, is that as a business person, and don't make no mistake, you are a business person as a voiceover talent. You have to have a marketing mindset, which means you have to have the ability to think from the client's perspective. Too often, and when I see these posts, it's almost always from the talent perspective. Well, I'm worth this because of A, B, and C. Well, okay, you're worth that to you. Doesn't mean you're worth that to anybody else. You may be. You may not be. But don't become offended and upset because the market doesn't bend to your will, because the market does not bend to your will. It bends to what they believe the value that you have to offer is based on what they need. Remember, business is about return on investment. At the end of the day, it's about return on investment. You need a return on your investment. You've got to be smart. They have to be smart. They need a return on their investment. And again, where those self-interests overlap, that's where business happens. So, as you look at these comments online and say, well, don't undervalue yourself. Well, sure, don't undervalue yourself. But you have to decide what you're worth to you, but understand that you may not be worth that to anybody else. You may or you may not, especially if you're earlier on, you're developing your skills. The audio quality may not be at the same par as somebody who's done this for a while. Your performance skills certainly won't be the same as somebody who's done it for a while. So, it's not, one size does not fit all. There is such a thing as entry level in voiceover. A lot of people like to live in denial and think that isn't so, but it is so. And it's a good thing because it allows those of you who are new at this to get a foot in the door and to start building something like you would in any other career. That's the way careers are built. And thank goodness voiceover is at a place now because of this proliferation of media that needs voices that didn't exist to this extent just a few decades ago. There's so many more opportunities now. That's a good thing. So, when you hear a friend say, well, he or she, nobody's worth that much money, whether it's in sports or business. Well, yeah, they are if somebody's willing to pay them because they believe they're going to get a return on that investment. It's all about value creation. It is all about value creation. So don't be offended if somebody's not willing to pay you what you think you deserve. And don't think that somebody's an idiot because they think that it's possible to pay somebody too much, because neither of those things, in reality, it's all about, are you creating a return on investment for the client? That's how business works. And I think voiceover talent get into trouble when they start listening to these voices in the voiceover community who say, this is the rate. Stick by the rate. No, that's ridiculous. That does not hold water. Not for a minute, not for a second. That does not hold water. Understand your value, yes, but more importantly, understand the value that you're bringing to your client. When those interests overlap, then something good can happen. All right, now I'll get off the sermon, get down from my bully pulpit for just a moment. Let's check in and see who is on the live stream. If you would be so kind as to take a moment to let me know what your name is and where you're watching or listening from this morning. Also, if you're not in my blueprint, and I see a lot of you guys who are on the live stream every morning are in my voiceover blueprint, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to work with you to help build a voiceover career. But if you're not in my comprehensive mentoring program, there is a link below in the description. Click it, check it out, get all the info. Phil in Tokyo, who's been visiting in Arizona. Phil, I don't know if you're back home in Tokyo or not, but I hope you had a good visit here to the States. Janet in Florida, good morning. Doug in Greensboro, North Carolina. Neil in Fairfield, I hope you're doing well. Sandra in Dallas-Fort Worth. Patrick, good morning to you in Maryland. MG, what's going on in NC? Bob, sending gratitude from Reidsville, North Carolina. Thank you, Bob, and sending gratitude right back to you. Hey, Rebecca in Albion, Michigan. Anthony and Vivian, hope you guys are doing well this morning in the great volunteer state of Tennessee. Dewan in New York City. Good morning, Heather in Southern Illinois. Beautiful country, Southern Illinois. Illinois is an interesting state. Of course, I lived there for about 30 years in the Chicagoland area. It's such a long state, and the geography is so different. Where we lived, it was flat as a pancake. Roads were cut in 1 mile square blocks. Now, where we live here in Ohio, you can never do that. There's too many hills and valleys and everything zigzags. But where we lived, it was like 1 mile blocks. Everything, as far as the eye could see, it was just flat as a pancake. You get down to Southern Illinois, now you're getting into the, some pre-mountainous area, some rocky, hilly stuff, and it can get quite beautiful down there. Greg in Asheville, North Carolina. That was my Illinois geography lesson for you today, by the way. You're welcome. Greg in Asheville, North Carolina. Mark's in Albuquerque. Sandra in Westerville. Enrolled in the Blueprint. Sandra, yes, indeed. Awesome. Wade in Philadelphia. Rob, in Mobile, Alabama. From Mobile, in Seattle, about to fly to Des Moines to drive to New York. Wow. Okay. Made me think of that old Steve Martin movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and John Candy, and the late great John Candy. Let's see here. I lost my place. Where am I? There we go. Rusty in Michigan. Good morning. Corey in Whitehall, Wisconsin. Albert, good morning from the shores of Lake Erie, just east of Cedar Point. A great amusement park we used to take when our kids were younger. We made a few trips up to Cedar Point. Had a great time. Good morning to you, Sherry in New York. Christine, good morning. Chris in Shelby, Ohio, home of the Shelby Bicycle Donald Duck bike. I'm not familiar with that one, but it sounds quite interesting. Gertie, good afternoon to you in Belgium. I hope you're doing well today, Gertie. Barbara in Ann Arbor. Top of the morning to Jay King. Also, we've got Wayne warming up in the Olympic Mountains. Theo, good morning from the temporarily non-moving Metro train. Conductor, how long are we going to sit here? Headed, hopefully, into Chicago. Well, Theo, our fingers crossed that you'll make it to your destination this morning. Jay in North Central Massachusetts. John in Rhinebeck, New York. Guy in St. Louis. Laura. Commenting on what a great job that Mike Hathco did on her hybrid video demo. So if you're saying, well, what's that all about? Well, if you look in my channel, just a couple of days ago, I posted an interview with Mike Hathcote, who is one of our faculty trainers, coaches in the VoiceOver Blueprint, and Mike offers a service called Hybrid Demos, and it's a way to get to up your demo game without paying full pro demo prices. It's a really good step up, and he does a great job. He's a great guy, so check it out. Guy in St. Louis, I think I mentioned you already, but Guy, a double good morning to you. Laura, okay. Piper in BC, Canada. Steve in Oshkosh, happy Self-Employed Day. Is it Self-Employed Day? You know what that deserves? A ring of the bell. Awesome. Yeah, happy Self-Employed Day to all of us who are self-employed. Aaron in Boston. Thomas in Tacoma, Washington. Luke in Ankara, Turkey, finishing up my first job audiobook. Luke, congrats on finishing up that first audiobook. Mark, good morning. Mark says you are priceless. Well, thank you, Mark. Appreciate you as well. Steve, good morning to you in Pembroke Pines, Florida. We've got New England in the house this morning. Let's see here. Dr. Bob, good morning to you in Clearwater, Florida. Well, thank you. Good to have you here this morning, as always. Andrew in Latvia. Good morning, Andrew. Good afternoon, I should say. Scott in sunny Owensboro, Kentucky. Happy National Day of Prayer. Is today the National Day of Prayer? You know what? It's since I stopped working in radio, I don't pay much attention to what the day is, unless it's like Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving. But all right, good to know. Tess in Tequila, Georgia. Michael, hi to you in the Netherlands. Awesome. That's my homeland. I am a Dewees. Do you know what Dewees stands for in Dutch? The orphan. Apparently, at some place in my family line, somebody was an orphan and they were assigned the name Deweese. Little known facts. Christine brewing my coffee up late last night with the little one because I forgot to finish my thought. Good morning to you in sunny Chicagoland. Aren't we as voice artists usually last in the budget list anyway? Well, yes and no. I mean, sometimes yes. Sometimes we're the afterthought. Not always. I mean, it's different from client to client. There's no rule there. But I think that, the same principle applies. Value is what you bring in terms of return on investment. Jeff, wishing you a good morning from Spotsford, New Hampshire. Thank you, Jeff. Hey, Wally, how are you doing? Let's see here. Oops, I lost my place. Hold on, I need to scroll back. The stream moved on me. I don't want to miss anybody. Andrew says the value of the marketplace varies depending on the market, and there is great truth to that, no doubt. Albert says, love this topic. I've tried explaining this to some employees of mine. Albert, good luck with that. I mean, the reality is there are two types of mindsets. There is a employee mindset, and then there is a business owner mindset. And you don't have to own a business to have that mindset. Oftentimes managers understand that. Sometimes employees understand that too. But employee, they don't care what your costs are. They don't care about the specifics of your business. They care about the deal that you have with them, the agreement that they have with you, and which they'll get, in terms of how much they get paid, what their hours will be, all that kind of stuff, which is understandable. They certainly, that's why they don't potentially make as much as you as a manager or an owner, although owners don't always make more. It just, maybe they have a chance to make more, but it doesn't always work out that way. But I think it's good to be educated, and I think if more employees understood that, they would take more ownership. But that's just the way of the world. That's the way things are. And that's why most people don't even get into voiceover, because they think more like an employee, and they're not willing to take the risk or to do the stuff involved that it takes to be self-employed. It's not a criticism or a judgment by any means. Not everybody can do everything, and that's cool. You got to know where you fit into the grand scheme of things. John, hello from Israel. Good, uncommon, common sense. Hey, Rob, good morning to you. Ready to fly to Langley Air Force Base this morning. Well, safe travels to you, Rob. Hey, Chuck, been listening for a while. Good morning from Jesse in Tampa. Well, thank you. Good morning, Jesse. Hello, Bill. It's Eric from Richmond, Texas, driving and listening. Jim says, love your content from Lincoln, Nebraska. Chris is in Columbus, OHIO. Jay, perception is reality. John, the market is like Mother Nature. It always wins. It does. It absolutely is like Mother Nature in that regard. And Mark is a Blueprint team member. Absolutely, Mark. And so glad you're here. Andrew, good morning to you in Latvia. Simon in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Fantastic. Good to have you here this morning. Andrew says you are quite international, Bill. Hey, Jolie got a job. Now, Jolie's in the VoiceOver Blueprint, and yesterday during one of our group coaching sessions, Jolie wanted to read and get feedback, and that's one of the things that I do. So even though we do everything as a group, I give opportunities for individuals to read and get feedback, and Jolie did that yesterday. We worked on something, and she got the job. That's fantastic, Jolie. That made my day. There we go. Hey, Hugh in New Jersey, good morning. David in Canal, Winchester, back at my old stomping ground. Wife coming in from Kansas City. Can't wait to discuss the blueprint. Fantastic, David. Theo says that interview with Mike Hathcote was very helpful. I'd wondered how the hybrid demo worked. Yeah, there you go. Now you know. Remy in Tulsa. Happy Star Wars May the 4th from Atlanta. Hey, thank you, Stephen. I did not know that. Hugh is a graduate of my original Fiverr course in 2016. Just got $125 for 4 words. Thanks, Bill. Fantastic, Hugh. Congratulations on that. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Make it a great and a profitable day. Remember, you are worth the value that you generate for somebody else. Always try to look through their eyes, listen through their ears, and think through their mind to understand what that is. And the more you can do that, the more successful you'll be as a voiceover talent. Have a great day.